An art journal tutorial, Embrace Life by Creative Katie. Watch to learn how to create an art journal page using only Gelli Prints. Gelli Prints for the background and Gelli Prints for the focal point. Don't forget to subscribe, that way you won't miss any art journal videos, technique tag videos, or planner videos. So I've been going through a bit of a creative slump, and I just decided I needed to play and just do something. I was just too much thinking, too much analyzing, and I kind of froze myself up in that process. And I know this happens to all of us. So I seem to be drawn to the yellows and orange and corals and peach colors lately. And since it's spring, I wanted to do something flowery. So I decided, you know what, let's just put down the background. So I grabbed out my Gelli Prints, and in the color family that I wanted to, I just pulled out some and I ripped them a little bit and played with them. And, you know, when I started this, I decided I'm going to start with the yellow and go gradually darker to the top. That was my plan. That didn't work out that way. I kind of went to dark and then I got lighter, and in the end it all worked out well. But I just wanted to not think. So as you get going, you know, gluing things down, it tends to get the creative juices going, and it does give you some ideas. So, you know, a good thing to do when you are stuck, just go gesso some pages, glue something down. It just starts to put you in that place. You know, the saying, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. So I'm just gluing these down and getting different torn edges and using various Gelli Prints, and this is a great place to use all those little bits that you have, putting them in. So I'm just gluing this down with my Mod Podge in the matte finish. And I'm using Mod Podge here, and when I started I used Mod Podge all the time, and then I moved to gel medium. And now when I'm putting something down and everything's going to be down, like I'm collaging the whole background, I tend to use Mod Podge. Later on, when I'm doing more finishing kind of things, that's when I'll use the gel medium. But if all you have is Mod Podge, you can use it throughout the whole process. If all you have is gel medium, you can use it. I like the matte finish because I don't want that shine unless I want that shine. If I want some shimmer and glimmer, which I often do, I want to have it very selective. So I'm just gluing this down, and right about now I found another whole stash of Gelli Prints that fit this color family. These ones here have bits of green and bits of blue in them, and that's one of the wonderful things about using Gelli Prints is you often get those little bits that pull the dark colors afterwards, and so you get textures and a pattern that you really can't get any other way. So just putting in the colors, and you know, it's just sheer joy just being able to use that paintbrush, put on the glue things down. So once that's dry, I just got out some copy paper and was playing with petals of flowers because I wanted to do flowers. It's springtime. It's a very natural thing, even though my background is more fall colors. Now, you can go and look at the mixed media technique tag number 13 where I talk about how to match focal points to backgrounds. So I can go two ways here. I can go analogous, an A, which will use a color that is right next to the colors that I have in the background. Or I can go with C, which is complementary colors, which are kind of that blue, because that's right across on the color wheel. Now I'm unsure which way I want to go here. And so often what I do when I'm unsure, I try both. So off camera, I cut some petals out in the burgundy, which is the analogous A scheme, and the C scheme in the blue, which has some of that bronze in it. Now, either of these would work good. 90% of the time, I must say, I do pick the A scheme, the analogous color scheme, which I do here. I picked kind of the burgundies and the dark reds. Interestingly enough, when I asked my husband which one he liked blue. Neither is a wrong answer. Both are right. I could have done the flowers in white as well, and that would have been the B color scheme, which is that big, bold kind of color. So just off camera, with using my templates, I just cut out with different Gelli prints and selected which ones I wanted. And I switched it up in that top flower to a different shape of petal. So each of my flowers has a different shape. So I'm just putting this down, and right now I'm using gel medium because it's more to the finishing. Now you could have on the background, you could have added some stamping if you wanted. You could have added some texture paste through a stencil. You could have done some stenciling on the background as well and add to what was already the textures and patterns that were in the Gelli prints. I just chose not to. So I cut out the stem from another Gelli print, and this was a Gelli print that was done on deli paper, and I really like how that goes down. It just really, you don't get a lot of texture. It just kind of melds very well with the page. So I think the next Gelli printing session that I do, I'm going to do it all on deli paper, and with the idea of using it for collaging as you see me doing here, especially for the focal points. Now this star flower at the top, I just wanted lots of petals and lots of layers to go. Now one of the things that you'll notice if you're using an analogous color scheme and into selecting your focal images like I am here, sometimes that kind of gets lost in the background. And some of these do kind of fade into the background. That just means you're going to have to do more when it comes to shading and outlining. And you're going to see me doing quite a bit of that to make them stand out from the background. Now you'll also note that I did leave space at the top for to put some captions or phrases later on. So when you are composing your page, if that's something you always want to include, which I do, I think about that when I'm putting my focal points or focal images down as well. I decided this flower didn't quite have enough, so I found a little bit darker burgundy flower, just so you have lots of different shades and tones of the same color. And that just adds interest. Now you'll note in the background Gelli print there are some circles in there on the top part, and so I chose to bring out that circle by adding these circles in the center of the two flowers. And again, this is all Gelli Prints, and just the scraps that I have. I have my Gelli Prints in my big blue box filing system, but I also have a box of them, of these little bits that come in handy for things like centers and that kind of thing. So I'm really liking what I have here. And before I go any further, I'm just going to outline around the page. And to do this, I could use my Stabilo All pencil, but I prefer using something that's a little faster and thicker, like my Neocolor 2. You could use your, or my Gelato. So just giving that a quick dry. And I just wanted to frame it up and to see before I added anything else in there. And that's a little trick that I tend to do um, first and foremost. So here you see me getting ready to do some floating. And that's a technique that I show in Mixed Media Technique tag number 8, edging and shading. And if you want to learn how to do this and other ways of getting edging and shading to make your focal points pop, please check out that video. I will put it in an iCard, but they're all arranged in a playlist with my technique tag videos. So I apologize for being off camera, off screen right here. It's really hard to give you a close-up of what I'm doing because I'm also moving it and I don't want to get the book into the wet paint. But I do go with my brush with this black acrylic paint. I am floating or shading all these flowers. And the centers. And as you can see with the ones that aren't done yet, this one is definitely has more life to it than the other ones do at this point in time because I've done that little bit of shading. So I'm going on one side because if you go on the other side, you'll touch it and you'll make a mess of what you've put on there. So you kind of have to do it in sections. And I am using kind of an angle brush here, a slanted brush. I just find that easy to use. If it's too light, if you want it darker, you can always add more. But with shading and floating, I typically start with less and I build up to more. Not all areas are going to be equal. So that is all done. Did it on all the flowers. And on my silhouette, I cut out the phrase "Embrace Life" using 2 different fonts because I like mixing it up, and that's what I like about the stamps that I see that I can't buy every single one. So I like to emulate what I like about certain things. And I just this was cut out on manila tag, and I just painted it black with just some black craft paint, and I'm just putting that down with gel medium. And since I had that space, I chose sizes of fonts that would fit that space. While I had other sayings that would have worked equally well on this page, this one was chosen because it did work well size-wise. So giving this a quick dry before I go on. Now you'll notice there's a bit of, I didn't line it up perfectly when I was cutting this with my silhouette, so I just have to fill that little bit in with paint. And then I decide I want some more circles because there's circles in the Gelli print in the background, and I'm just using the stylus, dipping it in the black acrylic paint and just adding to the center of the flowers. Just another little detail. And coming up, you'll notice that I do quite a bit of adding details or doodling to this to make it pop. So I didn't like how it was just yet. It didn't seem to be standing out enough for me. So I grabbed my black Posca pen and am just going around. Now, around the centers, I went solid, but around the petals of the flower, I'm just kind of doing a sketchy look. And I'm not being too precise. I just want to add, and you can see that with every little step that I do, the flowers are popping more. The background now is being pushed back, and your eyes are drawn to the flowers, and that's what you want to do. And I did a little bit of extra marking around there just to make it look darker, to give it some depth. And since I had sketchy all the way around on the flowers, I decided to do it around the border as well, just to make everything work together. And of course, there is no bling on this page, so I needed some bling. So I put some gold paint down, and with the fan brush, I was having a lot of difficulty getting the paint the right consistency to splatter. It just wasn't working, and I realized I grabbed the wrong fan brush. This one's a little stiffer. That was what was causing my grief. So I splattered this with gold that you see me with right here, and then later some black. And that goes over everything and just kind of makes everything unified. And the joy, if you make a mistake or it splatters in a glob for you, you do have some time to go in with a wet rag or a baby wipe and clean that up. And you see me doing a lot of that for this. So this page isn't necessarily the spring page that I had in my head, but I really like how it turned out. I think the black letters were a good choice. I like how the burgundy of the flowers worked, and I'm really happy with the choices. So just got to save the paint. I'm going to use this lovely gold paint in something in the future. Please enjoy pictures and close-ups of this art journal page. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment, share this video with others that may be interested in it. And thank you. Thank you for watching.